Have you ever wondered what the Bible really says about Satan? Not just what we've been told, but what the scriptures actually reveal, and, more importantly, what they might be hiding. The story of Satan, God's greatest enemy, may be far more mysterious than you think. Today, we're diving deep into the hidden story of Satan's past. Prepare to discover facts and interpretations that could completely change what you've always believed. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more revelations like this one. Let's embark on this journey of discovery. Most of us have grown up hearing that Satan was originally an angel named Lucifer, who was cast out of heaven for rebelling against God. But does the Bible actually say that? The only mention of Lucifer in the Bible occurs in Isaiah 14:12, where it speaks about the fall of the morning star. But when we look closely at the context, we realize this passage is referring to an earthly king, likely the king of Babylon, and not a fallen angel. The name Lucifer, meaning light bringer, was used in Latin translations of the Bible, but the original Hebrew word is Hillel, referring to the morning star, the planet Venus. So how did Lucifer become associated with Satan? Many scholars believe it was later theological interpretations that began to link Lucifer with Satan, especially after works like John Milton's Paradise Lost popularized the idea of a fallen angel by that name. So, if Lucifer isn't necessarily Satan, who is he? And why have we been led to believe they are the same? Could the real story of Satan have been hidden from us, or have traditions misled us about his true past? Interestingly, some historians argue that the confusion between Lucifer and Satan was a result of translations that occurred over centuries, particularly during the Middle Ages. Before that, Satan wasn't always viewed as this isolated figure of pure evil. The blending of these two distinct identities, Lucifer, the morning star, and Satan, the tempter, happened gradually as theological discussions shifted and new interpretations emerged. In other words, the devil we know today is a product of centuries of religious evolution, a mix of cultural symbolism, biblical passages, and human interpretation. But this raises another question. If Satan wasn't always known as Lucifer, what was his original role in the divine order? Could he have once been much more than just the adversary we think of today? When we turn to the Old Testament, Satan plays a very different role. In the book of Job, for example, Satan is described not as a villain or enemy of God, but as the accuser. He approaches God and challenges the faith of humans, testing them. In Job 1:6-12, Satan is seen asking God for permission to test Job, taking away his family, possessions, and health to see if Job's faith would still hold strong. This doesn't quite fit with the modern image of Satan as the ruler of evil, does it? Here, he's working with God's permission, not rebelling against him. This portrayal of Satan as a celestial servant, one who tests humanity, is far from the image of a fallen angel that many of us know. In fact, the word Satan in Hebrew means adversary or accuser. In the context of the Old Testament, Satan's role wasn't to lead humans into eternal damnation, but rather to challenge them, to test their faith and loyalty to God. He was, in a way, fulfilling a divine role. He was a part of God's court. In Zechariah 3 verse 1-2, Satan appears again as an accuser, standing beside Joshua the high priest to challenge him, once more acting as a figure who presents the weaknesses and sins of humans before God. But this depiction of Satan as an accuser raises an intriguing question. Was he really evil at this point, or was he simply fulfilling a necessary role within the divine plan? Is it possible that Satan's role was not to defy God, but to act as a means of testing human virtue and resilience? And if that's the case, when did Satan's image transform into that of the ultimate evil being? This transformation must have happened somewhere between the Old and New Testaments, a shift that turned Satan from God's tester to God's enemy. But the Bible doesn't explain clearly why or how this happened, and that's where things get even more mysterious. As we move to the New Testament, Satan's role shifts dramatically. In Matthew 4 verse 11, Satan appears as the tempter, testing Jesus in the wilderness by offering him all the kingdoms of the world in exchange for his worship. This is where we first see Satan as someone acting directly against God's purposes. However, even here, Satan isn't portrayed as ruling in hell. He's still very much present on earth, interacting with humanity, tempting Jesus. What's most intriguing about this encounter is that Satan seems to have power over the earthly kingdoms. How did he gain such authority? The Bible doesn't explicitly say. What we do know is that by the time of the New Testament, Satan had become synonymous with evil and temptation. Perhaps the most striking transformation occurs in Revelation 12 verse 7-9. In this passage, we witness a cosmic battle between the archangel Michael and his angels against Satan and his followers. Satan is ultimately defeated and cast down to earth. He is described as the great dragon, that ancient serpent, called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. However, the text doesn't clearly explain why this rebellion happened in the first place. What exactly drove Satan to challenge God? What event triggered his expulsion from heaven? The Bible leaves many of these details unclear, and we're left wondering, is there something the scriptures are not telling us? Is it possible that certain truths about Satan's fall have been left out, or that the story has been interpreted in a way that conceals deeper meanings? This ambiguity opens up space for reflection. Could it be that Satan's rebellion wasn't just about pride, but part of a larger, more complex cosmic conflict? After all, some scholars suggest that Satan's role as a tempter or tester of faith wasn't entirely against God's will. If so, how does this change the narrative of his fall? Could it be that Satan's opposition to God wasn't as straightforward as a simple rebellion? Could his role have been more nuanced, perhaps even a necessary part of the divine order before something shifted? The image of Satan continued to evolve significantly over the centuries. In early Christian writings, Satan was still viewed in somewhat ambiguous terms. But as Christianity developed, especially during the Middle Ages, Satan became solidified as the ruler of hell, the embodiment of evil. But here's where things get interesting. The idea of Satan as the ruler of hell doesn't actually appear in the Bible. The Bible never describes Satan as reigning in hell. Instead, he's depicted as a being who will eventually be punished there, not someone who rules over it. So where did this popular image of Satan as the king of the damned come from? Much of it can be attributed to cultural traditions and art. The world needed a figure to symbolize ultimate evil, and Satan was the perfect candidate for the job. Writers like Dante Alighieri, in his Divine Comedy, helped popularize the notion of Satan as the Lord of Hell. But the Bible itself says little about Satan ruling over hell. In fact, in Revelation 20:10, Satan's fate is to be cast into the lake of fire, where he will suffer eternally, not reign. This paints a very different picture of Satan's final destiny. If he's not ruling hell, then what has led us to envision him as its master? This misinterpretation likely stems from medieval theology and the need to provide a clear, terrifying image of where sinners would end up. Over time, hell needed a ruler, and who better than Satan to fill that role? But what if that image we have of him reigning from a fiery throne was never part of the Bible's true message? This brings us to perhaps the most intriguing question of all. What is the Bible hiding about Satan's past? We know that the story of Satan as a fallen angel developed over centuries, shaped by theological interpretations and cultural traditions. But as we've seen, many of these interpretations may be incorrect, or at least incomplete. When we examine the Bible carefully, we find that many of the ideas we have about Satan don't come directly from the scriptures. His past, his motivations, and even his relationship with God are more complex than most of us realize. And it's possible that we'll never know the full story. Perhaps the true power of Satan lies in the mystery that surrounds him. By leaving parts of his story hidden, the Bible forces us to reflect on the nature of evil, free will, and temptation. But it also raises a profound question. Why doesn't the Bible reveal everything about Satan? Could it be that some truths are too dangerous to be fully understood? One theory is that by keeping Satan's story vague, the Bible encourages us to focus on the battle within ourselves, the daily struggle between good and evil, rather than the ultimate origin of evil. The less we know about Satan, the more we have to confront our own personal demons. But at the same time, this lack of clarity invites speculation and curiosity. It makes us question, what more is there to the story of Satan that we haven't uncovered yet? Could Satan's role as God's adversary be more than just a symbol of evil? Is there something deeper to his rebellion that we aren't seeing? Perhaps a more intricate relationship between light and darkness? And if that's the case, what could it mean for our understanding of good and evil? The story of Satan, as we've explored, is filled with mysteries, ambiguities, and evolving interpretations. The figure we know today as God's ultimate adversary has been shaped by centuries of tradition, and much of what we believe about him may not even be in the original scriptures. But what remains clear is that the Bible challenges us to reflect deeply on the nature of good and evil and on our own spiritual journeys. We may never know the full truth about Satan's past, but what we can do is keep questioning, exploring, and seeking. What do you think the Bible truly reveals about Satan? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep bringing you more fascinating content like this. Remember, the search for truth never really ends. Not everything that's revealed is the full story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.